I noticed this thing's called the Binge Watchers, and binge watching means watching multiple things in one sitting. So how about we review multiple movies at a time instead of just one? Plus, I'm too lazy to come up with enough dialogue for one movie to carry this for more than 5 minutes. So like Slender Man, the theater was empty when I went to see this. But unlike Slender Man, this one was okay. So The Nun's about the nun from the Conjuring movies. It takes place in the 50s in some monastery out in Romania. I'm not doing a plot summary like I usually do in other movies, because I'm just going to say what I thought of the movie. It was okay. Every critic on YouTube is giving this movie crap because of its reliance on jump scares and how it does nothing new. I mean, yeah, they're right about that, but the movie also relied a lot more on atmosphere and creepy scenery. You got your creepy abbey, there's fog, spooky stuff. There's 3 main characters. One of them's an ancestor to Lorraine Warren, and they got the actress's sister to do her. It's fine because they gotta connect their whole Conjuring universe. It's fine. They got a priest who does stuff for the Vatican who had a bad thing happen to him during an exorcism that totally didn't remind me of that one guy from the Exorcist TV remake on Fox that I only watched half of before I said screw this. Last guy is some French dude that they call Frenchie. Some other guy on YouTube said he was over the top. I mean, he was fine. He had a couple of funny lines. He did what was needed of his character and all that crap. The acting was fine in this movie. They seem to know who to cast in these Conjuring-verse movies. The scenery's great, and the design of the nun and demons are fine. So what didn't I like? The plot isn't as strong in this one as in the Conjuring movies. It's not because of the setup. The setup's fine in this movie. I think it's the lack of a supporting cast. Because the movie only follows these 3 main characters, so there isn't much for character building like you got in the other Conjuring movies, because they focused on entire families. At the time of the review, the only name that I can remember is Frenchie's. I guess that's because his character was a little bit more cartoony than the other 2. As I and everyone else talking about this movie on the internet keep mentioning, yeah, there's jump scares in the movie. Honestly, it didn't bother me too much because most of them had some sort of a setup to them. But honestly, it's 2018, what can you do to the horror genre that's new? The way I see it, this movie had an interesting premise to it, and as I said before, great scenery and atmosphere to it. At least it wasn't something stupid like Truth or Dare, or Slender Man. I liked the movie more than I thought I would, but it still wasn't as good as the Conjuring movies. But as I said, not as much character building, and those ones had more of a backstory to them, even though the movies were also over-the-top Hollywood productions. This movie ain't no Exorcist, but it sure as hell isn't Slender Man either. I'd recommend it if it ever popped up on Netflix, or if you're looking for something spooky to watch during October. Wait till it comes out. It's an okay movie. This movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be honest. Is it as good as the original? Hell no. So I've only ever seen the first Predator, and it was awesome. That was this one. As I said, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but at the same time, it's just a generic action movie. It's nothing special, and it offers nothing new to the Predator lore. As I said, I've only seen the first movie. I heard that they want to make 2 sequels, though, so they could go somewhere with it. What did I like? Surprisingly, I liked a lot of the cast. There's this group of soldiers that all end up together near the beginning of the movie, and the dialogue between them is hilarious for the most part. I didn't like the main guy's son or that scientist chick. Kinda wish they weren't in it, but whatever. Also, the kid's acting was crap, and that's all I'm gonna say. How's the Predator? Okay, when you think of the Predator, what do you think? Badass alien warrior that hunts people. And it does that for the most part, but not in the stealthy hunter way. More of the roar, I'm a big CGI monster way. Predator ends up losing some of its equipment, and the humans have some of its weapons, which I think is awesome, because guns don't seem to work for the most part, yet they keep using them instead of the alien technology they have. There's comedy in this movie, and it's hit and miss, because we can't just have a solid action movie anymore, and there has to be forced humor, so they put some jokes in there. A lot of it was funny, like the dialogue between the group of soldiers, except for the one guy played by Keegan who just made jokes constantly. As it said, I've only ever seen the first Predator, and the main villain in that one was the Predator. In this one, there's a super predator or something, which I'm sure was done in another movie. I don't know, I haven't seen them all. But they decide to give us some dude as the main villain, which is kinda dumb. It's a super genetic alien modified to hunt and kill for sport, and you have a group of soldiers as your protagonists. But you decide to have this dude to be your conflict. Granted, he isn't the main bad guy for the whole movie, but it felt dumb having this forced human conflict which just ends abruptly before the end. The action's pretty good in this one. It's an R-rated movie, and it shows whenever people are getting slaughtered by the Predator. There's beheadings and people getting dismembered and their organs are hanging out. Cool stuff. Of course, you have other things like nobody reloading their weapons, or hey, our bullets aren't doing anything, but let's keep shooting anyways. Minor plot quips. Spoilers, by the way. So Predator comes to Earth to escape Super Predator because it needs to give humans a weapon to help fight them. But instead, it tries killing almost every person it comes across before being killed by the Super Predator. And you can't use language barrier as an excuse because it shows that they could translate their language through some computer thing on the ship. Also, the Super Predator wants to take the main character's son away for evolution purposes, but he just lets everyone escape in an RV right in front of him earlier in the movie. Don't say that he didn't need them at the time because he talks about there being human witnesses that he needs. And then later in the movie, he gets the kid and starts taking off in the ship, so our soldier guys jump on and try and stop it. The guns that didn't do hardly anything to the Predator seem to be super effective on their ships, because they managed to bring the thing down pretty quick. Well, then again, one guy jumped into the engine to sacrifice himself, but then you think, why didn't you just shoot the engine instead of the roof of the ship? Okay, so that's it for the quips. There's probably more, but I probably already forgot about them already. Should you go see this movie? I really wouldn't recommend it the same way I would recommend you watch the first Predator. That one's an action sci-fi masterpiece, and this is just a generic action movie that doesn't do anything new, that just happens to take place in the same timeline.
I didn't know her. I didn't know my daughter.
I saw this one immediately after I finished The Predator because I have nothing better to do on my days off. So a father's daughter goes missing, and it's up to him to put the pieces together to find her, all from the perspective of his computer. So how was it? I can't believe I'm saying this, but this movie was awesome. I'm surprised at how good this movie was. I saw that it looked a lot like Unfriended and that they wouldn't be able to do much from just a computer monitor, but boy was I wrong. I'm not spoiling this one, so I'm not going to give any plot details away besides the opening. The opening 5 minutes of this movie were the best I've seen to a movie all year. Kind of had the same vibe as Up. So they get you invested in the father and his daughter, which makes the remaining hour and a half a real thriller. This movie was almost 2 hours long, and you'd think that it would start dragging because it's just from the computer monitor. Nope, kept my attention the whole time, and when it finally comes to an end, you feel like you went through this whole situation with the guy. I mean, technically you did, because almost anything that furthers the plot happens right on the guy's computer, and you learn everything and start piecing things together on what might have happened to her as he's learning them too. So you're immersed the whole movie. The acting in this movie was great. The guy who played as the father did an amazing job. Surprisingly, so did all the teens he had to interact with. I'm a fan of shows like The First 48 that show how crimes get solved as they happen, and this kind of gave off a vibe exactly like that. I actually love that this movie took place from the perspective of the guy's computer. I guess it's because it's a location that you're really familiar with and that there's certain websites you'd probably use yourself. It kind of makes you think what you would do in this situation. You'd go, hey, I'm going to check this social media website and this social media website. Oh, what's that? There was a bank transaction involved? Let's go to the bank website. Oh, they were to this person? Let's try and look them up on this website. Stuff like that, which makes it more realistic when you kind of think of yourself doing the same thing in that situation. I can't really say much more about this movie because that would involve spoiling the plot, and I don't want to spoil this for you because I think you should go out and see this one. I highly recommend watching this movie over something like The Predator. The acting's solid in the direction it goes and keeps you invested the whole time. Well, those were the 3 movies I saw this week. Why 3 movies? Because I'm an AMC Stub member and I get like 3 free movies a week. I don't know what movies I'm going to review next because there's nothing coming out recently that looks any interesting. I don't know, probably Aquaman, Shazam, something else. I mean, I know the DC movies aren't that good, but I kind of like them. I mean, I get the Marvel movies are better from a filmmaking perspective, but I just kind of like DC better. I'm going to shut up now.